Hi there. I'm Mandy Deaglesmith, founder of Yup, a customized program for permanent weight loss and food freedom. I'm so glad you're here. The fact that you're watching this means that you're invested in your health and your happiness. And you're here, taking time out of your day to learn something new, something that might make a really big difference for you. I know that there's lots of stuff out there on weight loss and health, but coming to this webinar was a fantastic choice because the information I'm going to share with you today is not the same old stuff you've heard before. And I know this may seem dramatic, but it may very well change your life. In the next hour, you're going to learn my 3 secrets to permanent weight loss. And in the second half, I'm going to share with you my blueprint for shifting your metabolism. I'm going to go through specific strategies, the same ones I use with my clients, on how to lose your excess weight without being hungry all the time, without spending hours and hours at the gym, without cravings, and here's the key, without worrying about how you're going to keep the weight off, which is really the crux of this whole thing. Sound good? My goal is that by the end of the webinar, you'll have a lot more clarity around what's been keeping you stuck and several concrete actions that you can implement immediately. As a bonus for being here today, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a free gift that you're going to get a ton of value out of. You have to be watching live in order to get this, so definitely stick around. I promise it'll be worth your time. I know there are distractions all around us, but the strategies I'm going to share may literally change your life, and I don't want you to miss a single crucial step. So please, make a commitment to stay focused. Can you do that for yourself? Close out of Facebook, stop checking your email, turn off your cell phone, bring your complete attention here, just for the next little bit. So who am I? Well, that's my family and me up in Maine. I've spent most of my life on the East Coast, although I live on the big island of Hawaii now. I hold a PhD in psychology, but more important to our topic today, I had my own struggles with my weight for years, starting in my teens. It wasn't until my mid-30s that I finally figured out how to get to and stay at a healthy weight. I did a lot of things wrong along the way. It took a long time, but eventually I figured out that most of what was being spouted out as health and weight loss advice simply didn't work. Before I had my son, I became a little obsessed with finding answers. I spent countless hours digging into the research, following non-mainstream experts, and unearthing the secrets that I just wasn't finding anywhere else. At this point, I've been helping women get real results, lose their excess weight, and keep it off for over 15 years. So let's dive into the 3 secrets to permanent weight loss. After working with hundreds of people, I've learned that there are 3 key components of success, and that you can master these even if you've tried a million diets before, and even if you feel like maybe you just don't have what it takes, the willpower, the motivation, the right genes. Please know that despite the dismal statistics, it is possible to lose the weight and to keep it off permanently, like forever, when you do it the right way. So, are you ready for the 3 secrets? Here they are. Secret number 1 is that to succeed, you need to know why you fail. What I mean here is that you have to know what the real problem is, not what you think the problem is. Secret number 2 is that you have to remove yourself from the diet mentality. This is the undoing of so many people. People get caught here all the time, even when they're not aware of it. There are specific ways of shifting your mindset, and I'm going to show you a mindset shift that is the secret sauce behind the success of the few people who achieve lasting weight loss. And secret number 3 is that to lose weight, you don't have to have superhuman willpower. You don't need to spend hours at the gym, be a runner, do spin or kickboxing classes. You don't need to eat a super rigid diet, eat like a mouse, be hungry all the time, or walk around with a feeling of deprivation. You don't have to count calories, grams of carbs, or macros. You don't have to have won the genetic lottery. And you don't have to eat kale. Sound good? Countless people have a block around losing weight that starts with one or more of these beliefs. I'm curious, so I'd love to do a poll here. So go ahead and finish this question. I haven't been able to lose weight and keep it off because, so go ahead and just pick the answer that applies, that will finish the sentence best for you. I know there may be more than one that applies, but just find the one that you feel is most true for you. So let's just wait a moment to see what the answers are, and I'll get them up in a second. Let's see. So if you click view results, you can see the results there. It's always so interesting here to see the beliefs people are carrying around. So in a bit, I'm going to show you why each of these beliefs is not the real reason you may be struggling and what the root cause actually is. So I've given you 3 secrets here, but I actually lied because there's actually a 4th secret. The first 3 lead to really the biggest secret. It's the mega secret of all secrets, but it will only make sense after I go into a little more detail about the first 3. So I'll reveal that one in a little bit. So let's break down secret number 1. A big part of the reason so many people struggle with weight loss is that most of the time they're misguided about why they gained the weight to begin with. Since they never really get to the root of the problem, they're often barking up the wrong tree about how to fix it. So to get to the root of the problem, we need to understand a little bit about our biology. People have been trying to figure out what actually causes fat gain and therefore what will cause fat loss for a long time. There are currently 2 popular theories that try and explain this, both of which have significant flaws. The first is the calories in, calories out hypothesis, which implies that we gain weight because we eat too many calories. The other is the carbohydrate hypothesis, which implies that we gain weight because we eat too many carbohydrates. First, let's talk about the calories in, calories out theory. The thinking goes this way. If we eat less and exercise more, we'll lose weight. Now, this appeals to our reasoning because on the surface, it makes logical sense, right? It's a nice linear equation we can all get our heads around. And it's tempting because there is some truth to it. To lose weight, our energy output does need to exceed our energy input. The danger here is that this is way oversimplified. What's actually happening in our bodies is much more nuanced and much more complex. So maybe we're taking in more calories than we're burning, but why? Something interesting and devastating happened about 50 years ago. From about 1970 till about 2010, the average person started consuming 500 calories more per day. Now, why do you think that is? Do you think people just decided to start eating more? I'm going to talk more about this in a bit, but the bottom line is that this theory misses the boat. So when we're stuck in this mindset, we end up doing a lot of the wrong things and allowing ourselves to get pulled in all kinds of directions that don't get results, even when we know better. Let's talk about the carbohydrate hypothesis. I know this may come as a shock to some people, but this theory has been shown to be flawed as well. The reality is that carbohydrates in and of themselves do not cause weight gain. To illustrate this, we can look at the Okinawans of Japan, who eat the majority of their calories in the form of sweet potatoes, and yet are lean and among the healthiest populations on Earth. They boast more than 3 times the number of centenarians, people living to 100 years old or more, than in US populations of the same size. And like low-fat diets, people on low-carb diets also run into obstacles when it comes to keeping the weight off permanently. The reality is that when we're on any diet that's restrictive, the body has a specific response that prevents us from keeping the weight off. Let me show you what I mean. So we get started on our diet, and maybe we start an exercise plan. And for a while, we feel great. We're motivated, we're committed, and at first, we may lose weight. The The problem is that the weight loss never lasts. More than 95% of the time, it slows down and stops, and eventually the weight creeps back on. We've all experienced this. Study after study has shown this to be true. The reality is that diets can work in the short run, but they don't work for lasting weight loss. Invariably, people gain that weight right back. So what's going on here? Well, if you think about it, for the majority of the millions of years of living on this planet, eating less and losing weight has not been a good thing for humans. So when we go into restriction mode, our body works hard to keep our body weight stable. Here's what happens. Our metabolism starts to slow down. So even if you exercise, you won't burn as much as you did before. We have less energy, and some people start to feel cold. Our mood is affected, and we might feel irritable, anxious, or depressed. And the reward center of the brain shifts so that snacks and processed foods look more appealing. And to top it off, we get really hungry. All of this together is called the starvation response. And it's the same thing that happens when people are actually starving. So I'd love to do another quick poll here. If you've experienced this before when trying to lose weight, any of these symptoms of metabolic slowdown, just click yes or no. So let's just see. I'll give you a minute to go ahead and click. And let's see. Yeah, so 96% of people that are here today have experienced this, pretty pervasive. And this brings us back to secret number 2. To succeed, we need to remove ourselves from the diet mentality. When you understand what's actually happening when we diet, you can see that dieting sets us up for a power struggle based in our biology. People beat themselves up when they start to feel like they're losing control here, but this all happens at an unconscious level. It's being controlled by the hypothalamus, an ancient part of our brain that takes all this very seriously, since it's been responsible for our survival for millions of years. And it has some powerful tools at its disposal, and it can be incredibly persuasive. So there are actually 2 different parts of our brain acting independently, and each has its own agenda. There's the instinctive brain, which regulates hunger, eating behavior, and our weight, and it really wants that piece of cake. The other brain is our rational brain, which really wants us to lose weight. It wants us to do the right thing and stick with our plan. But here's the crucial part of the story, though. When the conscious, rational brain squares off against the instinctive brain almost always wins. It's like an elephant with a rider. If the elephant's made up its mind to go one way, but the rider wants to go the other, who do you think is going to win that battle? This is why going on a diet or simply attempting to eat less almost never works. We end up in a losing battle with our biology, our natural instincts. And then we end up in those endless mind games around food and eating. I think you know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to go into a little more detail about that later and how to deal with this inner conflict. So diving into secret number 3. To lose weight, you don't need to eat a super rigid diet. You don't need to eat like a mouse or be hungry all the time or walk around with a feeling of deprivation. You don't need to spend hours at the gym, be a runner, do spin or kickboxing classes. You don't have to count calories, grams of carbs, or macros. You don't have to have won the genetic lottery, and you don't have to eat kale. Now, I have nothing against kale, but we often think that to lose weight, we have to suffer eating foods we don't like. But I promise that is completely unnecessary. Please know that this is achievable, doable, and sustainable for the average person. Even if you love food, even if you're Italian or Jewish or come from any other culture or family where food is a big part of life. And here's the key to this. Your success depends on finding the way to eat and live that you like, that you're happy living with day in and day out. Your weight loss is never going to be sustainable if you don't like what you're doing or what you're eating. You're not going to stick with something if you hate it, if it's too hard, too restrictive, or if you're constantly fighting your biology. And one more thing people often feel they need in order to lose weight is some superhuman willpower. So many people feel that their downfall with food and weight loss is due to an inherent lack of it. So I want to do another quick poll here because I think you'll be shocked at just how prevalent this belief is. So if you've ever felt like you just don't have the willpower it takes to be in control with food and stay at a healthy weight, go ahead and click yes below. If you've never felt that before, you can click no. So I'll give you a second to go ahead and do that. All right, let's see. So you can see the results here. 92% said yes, they felt their lack of willpower has held them back. And that's not surprising to me. So if you've been here, you're in really good company. And there's a lot of really fascinating research on this, and it's shown that willpower really is a thing, but it doesn't work the way most people think. It's actually kind of like a battery. We start off in the morning with a certain amount, but then it drains off little by little over the course of the day. That's why a lot of people have no trouble staying the course in the morning, but by dinner time, they're often tired and hungry, and then all bets are off for following through on their intentions. So everybody runs low on willpower at certain times. But if you think you're just inherently lacking it, how easy is it to want to throw in the towel and give up? A lot of times, people think they just need to try harder, muster up all their willpower, which will finally get them to the other side. But that's also a trap because while they're putting all their energy into trying to bolster their willpower, they're neglecting the real strategies that would actually work to keep them on the right path. They're putting all their eggs in the wrong basket. So if you've been here before, what you need to understand is that you're not failing because your willpower is inherently weak, only that you've put undue reliance on it. And I'll talk more in a bit about what you can do about that. So finally, we're at the fourth secret, the secret of secrets. You've seen how crucial it is to understand the real problem, that the theories we've been using to explain weight gain and weight loss are flawed, which leads to ineffective dieting and the dieting mindset, and how we end up fighting our own biology and our own brain when we try to lose weight. The core issue is not that we're eating too many calories, it's why we're doing it. And the bottom line reason is that body fat is biologically regulated. It's controlled by our body fat set point system. Like body temperature and blood sugar levels, we have a narrow range, a level of body fat our body wants to remain at. And it will fight tooth and nail to stay there. So becoming overweight is a result of a body fat set point that's gotten stuck at a higher weight. This weight then becomes the new normal, and the body defends it rigorously. So if we stay in the old weight loss paradigms, we're in a conundrum. The only way we're going to get over this hump is to completely reframe our thinking and address the root cause of our weight loss struggle, a skewed body fat set point system. Because if we can reset the body fat set point to a lower point, weight loss can happen naturally and easily without forcing it or battling our own body. So how do we do this? Here's a look at a model that takes into account the bigger picture of what's actually happening within the body, which is not a simple linear equation. The body's made up of many interacting systems, including the brain, hormones, the gut, and by that I mean the digestive system and our immune system. And these systems are wired in very specific ways based on how we've evolved over millions of years. And we just can't get around that. So what's key to remember is that each of these systems affects all the others, and they all impact our body fat set point and our ability to lose weight. So there are some very specific ways that we can work through our body systems to recalibrate our body fat set point system. There are 4 key overarching strategies. I'll lay them out here and then we'll dive into each one. The first one is the food reward fix. Then there's the body clock fix, the movement fix, and the mindset fix. It almost works like a combination lock. Each of these supports the other. And when you get the code right using the strategies, things start to click into place. Let's dive into the food reward fix. This is a place where there's so much confusion and so many misconceptions about what we should or shouldn't be doing. And it's easy to get a little crazy trying to keep up with it all. Now, as we talked about earlier, so many of us are still holding on to pieces of the conventional calories in, calories out theory, meaning we're trying to eat less calories, and some people are carb counting. But the reality is that the type of food a person consumes, the types of carbs, the types of fats, and even the types of proteins dramatically affects the quantity of calories they consume. In fact, the single biggest predictor of weight gain is the kind of food you eat. Rats that are fed a cafeteria diet end up over-consuming and becoming obese, whereas when they're given free access to their regular rat chow, they eat the exact amount they need to maintain their weight. And that's exactly what's happening with humans. Eating certain processed foods shuts off the natural feedback mechanism that has us stop eating when we're full. It takes us out of harmony with what our body needs and overrides the natural body fat set point system. Just like drugs, processed foods like flour and sugar and hyper rewarding flavors created in labs alter the reward center of the brain and increase the reward threshold. So you need more of that food to feel the same level of pleasure you did before. Once you've done this a few times, you no longer find consuming an orange or strawberries as tasty. In fact, life in general seems a little less exciting and a little more gray. So eating starts to become a way out of that gray and back to our normal selves. Remember I told you about how Americans increased their calorie consumption by 500 calories per day between 1970 and 2010? I know there was a lot of change that happened in that time period, but one massive change is that people started eating way more convenience foods. An NIH study showed that processed foods cause people to eat 500 more calories per day. They also ate faster and, no surprise, gained weight. And then the opposite was also true. People lost weight by eating less processed food, even when they could eat as much as they wanted. So, although you can get into the nitty-gritty of it, the greatest predictor of leanness is actually the degree to which your meals are composed of unprocessed whole foods cooked at home. Now, I'm talking about single ingredient foods that run, fly, swim, or grow out of the ground. These foods reset the reward center of the brain and begin to allow the body fat set point system to work properly. So when we shift our thinking here, it changes the questions we need to be asking ourselves. I have so many clients asking me things like, well, how many calories should I be eating? Or how many carbs? Or what should my macros look like? And while I can't say that these things have no bearing, the more important question is, which foods should I eat to recalibrate my brain's reward center? To normalize my hunger? Which foods will free me from cravings and shift my body into fat releasing mode rather than storage mode? Now, is there more to the story? Yes, of course, there are nuances to how to do this optimally for you. From person to person, the finer details may look somewhat different because each of us is unique. Figuring out the details is part of the process, but the basic premise remains the same. So many of my clients say things like, I thought I knew what I was supposed to be eating, but a lot of people end up being surprised at what actually works best for them and how much they're able to eat and still lose weight. I want you to meet Barbara. Barbara is super knowledgeable and really health conscious, but still struggled to lose her excess weight and bloating. She thought she was doing everything right, but when we made some changes in her eating, she was really surprised at the results. Let's take a look.
I was surprised that I thought I knew how to eat and what to eat, and that wasn't really what I thought it was. Clearly, it hadn't made a difference for me in the past, so this was huge. I also was surprised at how much food I could eat and how easy it was as long as I took some time to prepare, and the variety and the taste of the food. Sometimes you think about these, I hate to call them diets, but you think about these and you say, I don't want to give up good tasting food. I want things that are yummy, and the food was really yummy. And at the same time, because I was eating that way, my husband Kevin was eating that way, and so he was thrilled. It was surprising how easy it was for both of us to stick with it and really learn along the way some of the things that I thought I knew that I didn't really know. And through the whole process of working through, here's what's going on for me, here's what I'm eating, here's when I'm eating, here's the quantity I'm eating, here's how it's affecting me. And through our back and forth dialogue, I really started to think differently, not only about what I was eating, but about other areas that maybe I had some really strong beliefs in that could be benefited by being a little bit more flexible and working with somebody to help me understand that there are different ways to look at things. I would say I am much more aware of triggers, of emotional triggers, of what I use as a reason or an excuse to eat things that I just know are not going to make me feel good. And doing that helps me to arrest that sooner. I also have a much better sense of when I'm eating it, and it doesn't really taste good. The first 3 bites might have tasted good, but the rest doesn't. It's kind of leaving me flat, and stopping myself and saying, okay, why am I eating right now? Am I bored? Am I tired? Am I hungry? And through the process, I started to pay much more attention to my body. And that's been a really nice surprise too.
The second overarching strategy is the body clock fix, or you could also think of this as circadian alignment. Our body clock is a major regulator of nearly all the physiological activities in our bodies, including our sleep-wake cycles, our energy, and our hunger. Our body clock has been programmed into our DNA through millions of years of living on this planet. So even though we're living in a modern world with artificial light, our bodies are still working off the hours of the rising and setting sun. The main clock is in the brain, and the main thing that regulates it is light. But our body clock is also regulated by our food intake, more specifically, when we eat. We have a natural eating window, and eating within this window helps us get in alignment. When our body clock is out of alignment, it can have severe consequences on our health. Unfortunately, most people these days are out of circadian alignment. This is because we're eating for too long a window and eating too late at night. We're not getting enough daylight exposure during the day. And we're extending our natural waking hours at night using artificial light and not allowing our brains to naturally transition into sleep mode. And one of the biggest recent changes is the accessibility of our screens and our inability to shut them off. All of this is also contributing to suboptimal sleep, which is disastrous not only for our waistlines, but for our overall health. People who stay up late don't like hearing this, but losing weight is particularly difficult when sleep is out of alignment. So there are 4 main ways to shift your body clock back to its natural alignment. The first way is to optimize your feeding window. And by this, I mean syncing when you eat to daylight hours. And within that, finding the right window for you. The second method involves caloric timing. This is about optimizing meal timing so that what you eat is more likely to be used for energy. So even when you're eating the same amount of calories, you'll burn more. The third strategy is getting proper daylight exposure during the day. Most of us live and work indoors, and even when we turn the lights on, it's just not the same as being exposed to natural light, which triggers the brain in very specific ways. And the fourth main way to realign your body clock is to improve your nighttime pre-sleep habits. I know this is hard for a lot of people, but turning off your screens earlier gives your brain the signal that it's time to get ready for sleep, so it can make the neurological and hormonal shifts that lead to restorative sleep. So following these strategies to realign your body clock will profoundly improve your metabolic health and has all kinds of other health benefits as well. Let's dive into the third strategy, the movement fix. Now, what I'm going to tell you here may be different from what you've heard before. When we think about movement, it's easy to get caught in the myth of more is better. We need to go harder, faster, longer. We should be doing cardio every day, going to spin or kickboxing classes or running. Many people tell me they feel like they're not losing weight because they're not doing enough of these things. They see people out there running who look so slim and healthy, and they think, if only I did that, I'd be slim and healthy too. But in a documentary, participants were shocked to discover that even training for and running the Boston Marathon didn't lead to any weight loss whatsoever. I'm not saying that if you love running, you shouldn't run. Only that if you're thinking that exercising like this is your ticket to weight loss, you're barking up the wrong tree. This kind of exercise is not only stressful on the body, it triggers our body to want to conserve energy, to get hungry, and to want to sit on the couch for the rest of the day. So people may lose weight initially, but ultimately it leads to the same metabolic slowdown and weight plateau as dieting. Of course, there are some people who are simply not moving their body enough, which also leads to problems. So again, let's change the question. Rather than ask, how do I exercise more, or how many calories should I burn when I exercise? A better question is, how do I move my body in ways that best trigger the release of fat and improve metabolic fitness? Now, there are several really good strategies to do just that, but today I'm going to give you the low-hanging fruit, the strategy that's probably the easiest to incorporate into your life that will give you the biggest bang for your buck for weight loss and health. And that is regular, low-level, gentle movement. I'm talking about things like walking, playing, standing more rather than sitting, getting up and taking breaks from sitting at your desk, or gardening or housework. Now, I get that these might not seem like significant exercise, but let me tell you, the cumulative effect of incorporating these low-level activities into your day, every day, is profound. People that do see better weight loss results and overall health outcomes than those who go hard at the gym 3 days a week. I'm saying this as someone who used to spend over an hour every single day at the gym. Unlike a lot of people, I actually really liked working out. But what I was doing all those years was actually backfiring on my weight loss efforts. Now, there are ways to work out more intensely that will up-level your weight loss and fitness. But the most important, biggest bang for your buck strategy is incorporating the activities I'm talking about here. So strategy number 4 is the mindset fix. And I'm not just talking about positive thinking, because this is so much bigger than that. I'm talking about actually changing the pathways in your brain. Let me give you an example. One of the biggest mindset obstacles is good, bad thinking. It's really easy to get sucked into thinking your behavior around food as good or bad. thinking about foods themselves as good or bad, thinking about what the scale says as good or bad. And what this does is it sets us up for self-judgment. And not only does this feel crappy, but it's the pathway to sapping our motivation and all kinds of mind games that set us up for self-sabotage. We say to ourselves, well, I was good all day yesterday, so I can eat this cake today. Or I was already bad today, so I may as well just go all out and start again on Monday. Or the number on the scale is really bad, so what's the point in trying? Psychological research has shown that these are all predictable, destructive thought pathways that start with good, bad thinking. The antidote is to start thinking like a scientist. What I mean is that rather than judging ourselves or our behavior, we can learn to be curious. Instead of, I was bad because I ate that cake, we can think, I wonder what led me to eat that cake. Instead of, I must be bad because I'm just so hungry, you can ask, I wonder why my hunger feels so overpowering. And while it might not seem significant, this simple mindset shift can literally make all the difference in keeping you on track rather than wanting to throw in the towel. The first step is to just start to notice your thoughts around food and eating. When you think of something as good or bad, when you feel pulled in, when you justify your behavior, when you beat yourself up, just noticing these thoughts without judging them actually starts the process of rewiring your brain. So we talked earlier about willpower, and this is a place where understanding it, what it is and how it works, can be game-changing. So I told you how willpower works kind of like a battery and can get tapped out throughout the day. Any little decision, having to think through problems or having to keep it together emotionally when you want to let loose, all these bits of mental effort nibble away at willpower. So we can't expect our willpower to be tapped off at 100% all the time. It's just going to be low sometimes. So the first solution is to primarily use strategies that don't rely on willpower. Strategies that can carry you through, even when your willpower is running low. So you're probably like, okay, great. How do I do that? How do I take the pressure off my willpower? This is all about creating structure, creating routine, automaticity, building this into what you do day to day, knowing what you're doing and having it be automatic, something you don't need to focus on or even think about. Do you remember when you learned how to drive? You had to think about when to step on the gas and when to step on the brake. You had to really focus on all the things you were doing. But once you learned how to do it, it became automatic. You don't need to think much about any of those things anymore because you practiced. It became automatic. Same thing here. And when you're in this place, you're not having to decide what you're going to do or what you're going to eat. You have a plan and you follow it. There's no battling your brain. It's not even a conversation. You just do what you do. Now, this does require a little more forethought, but in the end, it actually saves a lot of time. The second solution is that you can actually learn to strengthen your willpower because there are always going to be scenarios where willpower comes into play. And willpower is also like a muscle that can be strengthened, and you can learn specific ways to do this. So I haven't really talked yet about chronic stress and worry, but these also create specific physiological barriers to weight loss by increasing hunger and cravings and preventing the release of fat. And I know that a lot of people are dealing with added stress right now, which is totally understandable. But learning how to change your response to the stress around you will not only lead to increased weight loss, but also to a way more fulfilling and happier life. And so much of this is about developing resilience. Because even if you have every awesome weight loss strategy in the world, it's critical to find a way to work through things like fear, self-doubt, and overwhelm. How many times have you been doing great on a weight loss plan or a diet and eventually hit a challenge or a plateau and then thrown in the towel because you just felt defeated? These are the things that keep even the best intentioned, most motivated people stuck. Because way more important than what you do or what you eat is who you become along the way. This is something I hear from my clients over and over again. Yes, I'm losing weight, and yes, I'm feeling great. But the amazing thing is, now I've changed. I'm stronger. I'm more confident. I don't let setbacks keep me stuck. I know how to work through the obstacles and keep going. Those are the kind of things I want to hear you say too, where you lose the weight, have more energy, and oh, by the way, you're also becoming a more powerful person. I want to introduce you to Kelly. Kelly struggled with making promises to herself regarding food and her weight that she just kept breaking. She had a major mindset shift that made all the difference. So here she is.
I was tired of feeling like I was letting myself down and making promises to myself and not keeping them. Most afternoons, I just had huge sugar cravings. I would just go hunt out and eat tons of sweets. Like, to loop back had me feel like, well, tomorrow I don't want to be doing this. I don't really want to feel like just that craving and like I'm really need to get the sugar fix. So not having sugar cravings anymore is just really amazing and just amazingly freeing. I think that I do have a new confidence in myself. I definitely feel just more comfortable with myself and my body. And I think it's not just the weight loss. It's that it gets back to that I'm trusting myself and knowing that I think even looking back on the times that I wasn't successful with weight loss, that it wasn't that I just like had bad willpower and it wasn't a good person. It's like, oh, when I found the right things for me to eat, after that, it was easy. And it didn't become about like a willpower grit through it. It was just, oh, this is what I'm eating and I can trust myself because it's easy to make these decisions in a way that I've never had before. I feel like I can maintain this forever. I was just tired of not being successful, of not trusting myself. So that is, wow, I'm going to get a little sappy, but it's priceless to feel that I can trust myself. Yeah, and that I can set boundaries for myself that are healthy. It's awesome.
So now you understand that the big secret to permanent weight loss is that we need to lower the body fat set point. And I've gone over 4 overarching key areas and specific strategies for each one. But one thing I want to make clear is that using these strategies requires developing habits. There are a lot of companies out there claiming to have the magic pill to weight loss. But as you've probably figured by now, there is no magic pill. Getting your food dialed in, your body clock aligned, your movement in check, and your mindset right, each of these requires developing habits. There are different levels of habits, and each person is starting at a different level. Some may be starting at a high level, and some may not. I know a lot of people are already doing a lot of things right and still feel stuck. Like you're doing everything right and still not losing weight. You need to understand that your degree of success is going to depend on the totality of your habits added together. If you want to get beyond a certain point, you have to shift your habits to the next level. In order to do this, you need to have a map of where you are and where you're going. You need to understand what level you're at and what habits are going to get you to the next rung. Where people often get stuck is that they're doing some things right, but to get to the next level in their weight loss or to overcome a plateau, they need to level up. But this isn't going to look exactly the same for everybody, because the reality is that each of us is unique. We have our own unique genetics, health issues, susceptibility to emotional eating, and all these other things. So the approach you take, the one that will best lead to weight loss and health, needs to take who you are, all these things, into account. In fact, there's a study called the National Weight Control Registry that's looked at 10,000 people who have successfully lost weight and kept it off for at least a year. And what they found is that no two people succeeded in quite the same way. Each had their own path to success. So it's clear that the best way for you to lose weight is to find your best path, one that works with your physiology, one that doesn't feel like a battle, and one that you're happy sustaining over time. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about understanding the real problem, getting out of the diet mentality, and resetting the body weight set point. We've outlined the 4 keys to permanent weight loss and gone through specific strategies that eliminate fighting your willpower, diet fatigue, and weight rebound. Now, there are some people who are going to get off this webinar today and take what they've learned and run with it. There are a handful of people out there who can do this successfully, figure it out on their own. But after observing this over and over again, that's just not true for most people. Because there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And when it comes to actually nailing this down, the devil is in the details. I've seen a lot of people spend years of their lives and a lot of heartache continuing to spin their wheels, going it alone, or going back to Weight Watchers or other programs they don't really like and don't work over and over. So let me tell you a little about how I work with my clients. It's not an app or a diet or a one-size-fits-all program. It's a customized for you, one-on-one partnership where I personally walk you through the process of uncovering your best path to weight loss, or what I call YUP, your unique plan. So let me ask you, how would things be different for you if you could have someone walk you step by step through the strategies we just talked about? If you had all the help you needed to establish the habits that will lower your body weight set point, making weight loss easy and doable and something you can sustain. How would your life be different if you knew with certainty that you could handle every challenge, every obstacle that came your way, and that the light at the end of the tunnel was real? If all that sounds like something you're interested in, here's how I can help. I mentioned at the beginning that I have something awesome for you, and here it is. I want to offer you a chance to speak with me personally, either on the phone or face-to-face on Zoom. I've set aside some time to talk with you within the next 48 hours. There's a link on the screen that will take you to the next step. A few questions to help me learn a little more about you and where you're at. But there is one catch. And that is that this call really is not for everybody. So here's who it is for. Before you schedule a call, I want you to first ask yourself, is this a now thing? And what I mean by that is, are you sick and tired of struggling and getting down to your ideal healthy weight is something you're chomping at the bit to make happen, like now? And second, are you open to new ways of looking at things and doing things? Because this is a journey and it'll probably look different from things you've tried in the past. I've talked with a lot of people right at this decision point, and what I've seen is that some people are just simply more comfortable staying stuck. And I get that. But if you're ready to step into something that could change your life, then this call is for you. And third, are you willing to invest in yourself and in your health to get sustainable results? Because, like I said, this isn't Weight Watchers or an app. It's a one-on-one transformational coaching program, and you need to be ready to dive in. So if this is you, I invite you to take the first step by filling out the questionnaire. The link on the screen will take you there. There are really just a few questions. After you fill it out, you'll hear from me. And if it makes sense, I'll send you a link to schedule a call. That's it. Now, this is a deep dive coaching session to break you out of where you've been stuck and get you started on implementing some initial strategies. We'll get on a call for about 45 minutes, and during that time, we'll get very specific about what's been holding you back, your reasons for gaining weight, and come up with a plan to implement the best strategies to get your weight loss going. The value of this call is $500, but right now, I'm offering it to you at no charge. Now, I get that the idea of talking with someone you've never met can seem weird or scary, and I get that. But I want you to know that people love these calls. You're going to get tremendous value out of it, and I promise you, it's going to be the best 45 minutes you've spent on yourself in a long time. So let's talk about why I'm doing this. I've made it my life's work to help people just like you. And I'm happy to give you 45 minutes of my time if it means I might be able to move the needle for you. Coaching people around weight loss and helping them break out of a stuck place is my jam, and it's what I love to do. Plus, you may decide that working together is part of your best path. And the only way to know that is to get on the phone and have a conversation. It's that simple. Either way, whether we decide to work together or not, you're going to get a ton of value from the call. People also find just the process of thinking through and completing the questions to be really valuable. So now you have a choice. You can finish this webinar and continue on the path you are on, trying to figure it out on your own. Or you can let me help you get on your right path right now and start walking it. I want to introduce you to one more person. Reeves had been on all kinds of diets, but continued to gain weight back every time. In the past, each time she dieted, she felt like she was battling something. This time around was completely different for her. I'll let her tell you about it.
I was worried about doing something and failing, like I maybe had done before, or lapsing back into old habits. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to lose any weight at all because I had tried so much before. I was like, is this it? Am I just stuck in this particular place? And I also wanted to do it in a way that felt more authentic to myself, and trying to force myself to be in Weight Watchers again, which just filled me with a lot of dread. I didn't want to do it. Other programs that I tried where I just felt like I was trying to force myself to do something that obviously hadn't lasted. I think some of the biggest changes were just the ways I started thinking about food and the way I started thinking about eating. And besides the fact that when the weight started coming off, it felt really good, and it felt really, like I was working a process, instead of battling something. And I think that's an interesting word to use, is that in the past I felt like I have been battling things, and it didn't feel like such a battle. But as you and I talked about food and the different types of food and when to eat, and I sort of took the advice that you had and then worked it out on myself to see what actually really worked best for me. That was not just a body changer, but it was a mind changer. It was definitely worth that kind of investment in myself. And I felt like what you gave back to me, besides along with the information, but just the meetings and the ways in which we interacted, I just haven't found it anywhere else. So it really, because I feel like I've opened up, just not having to think about foods, not having to think about, oh my gosh, am I going to eat the right thing? I just eating to where I feel really good, and then moving on with the other stuff that I want to do. That has been a real, it just changes the way I live. So it just really worked. It just really worked.
So this is it. You get to write your story. The time to do that is now. If you're ready for your story to change, then go ahead and give the link on the screen a click. Now, If you've been struggling, I would love nothing more than to help you figure this thing out once and for all. So click on the link, book a call to speak with me. I promise it will be the most valuable time you spent in a long time. My calendar does fill up, so make sure you grab a spot now. I'm Mandy Dieglesmith. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.